Hello, welcome back to the Early Bar Football Podcast. It's finally here. The Premier League season is upon us tonight. It is Brentford versus Arsenal to start off what even year of this is the Premier League season? I should have done that kind of research. I want to say it's over 30, isn't it? Got to be.
No, it's like 20.
No,
it's 90. When does it start? 91?
92,
93.
It's close to 30, isn't it? I mean, to be honest, in terms of as intros go, it's got to be up there for not doing any research. And about 20 seconds in, already running out of stuff to say. So we'll start off talking about Brentford versus Arsenal because that was totally slick by me. I'm joined by Chrissy, Tang, Lynchy and Leafy tonight. Chrissy, we'll start off. We spoke about this yesterday, but there's a bit of team news when it comes to Arsenal with reportedly no Lacazette and no Aubameyang. Obviously, that's got to hurt Arsenal's chances. Does that change your prediction from what you said previously?
To be honest, it doesn't change my prediction because I've gone with a Brentford win anyway. I've gone 2-1 Brentford.
That's an Arsenal fan.
I'm not confident in Arsenal. I don't think Arsenal have had a good transfer window. I mean, all right, Ben White, good player for the future. Lokonga, good player for the future. But at the end of the day, Arsenal, are we just going to keep building to the future, for all these seasons? We got to, try and get back into at least the top six and that, but it's not going to happen. But yeah, I've gone 2-1 Brentford. I think Ivan Toney will get both of Brentford's goals. One of them will be from the penalty spot. I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal had a man sent off either because it's Arsenal and they had the most red cards last season. But yeah, and obviously the news today that Aubameyang and Lacazette aren't going to be playing tonight. I mean, all right, they haven't been great in pre-season and that, but it's still a massive hit for Arsenal. The only thing good news that you could probably take out of it is maybe it gives Fowler and Balogun, his first chance in the Premier League to prove, obviously Arsenal have put faith in me, giving me this new long-term deal. Maybe it gives him a chance to say, look, I'm going to be the main number one striker here. And if he gets off to a good start, maybe scores a goal, get an assist, he might actually become Arsenal's new number 9.
I mean, anything's possible. I think a couple of times of last season, wasn't it, with Arsenal, is that actually when the less established players played, Arsenal did play better, didn't they? Like in the Europa League and stuff like that, when it's the youngsters actually played. So maybe it's a blessing. But it's a massive blow that you'd have Aubameyang and Lacazette both not playing. But be interesting to see how it plays out. Tang, what do you think? Do the the enforced changes for Arsenal, does it change your opinion on tonight? Are you just excited that the season started? Are you even going to watch the game?
I'll watch the game. I'm going to have dinner afterwards, but we can talk about dinner later.
We can. I've had mine.
Yeah. I don't want to take too much airtime off Lynchy as he's the Arsenal fan. He'll probably have more words to say about this, but I think with Aubameyang and Lacazette not starting and not playing, I think it'll probably be it'll be a blessing for us. I think they're a confidence team, aren't they? Massively. When they're good on confidence, they're not a bad side, but there just seems to be this dark cloud around them that there's always something negative with Arsenal and they're all bottlers or they're just not good enough for the side. They're bang average. But I think, getting the youngsters in, getting them in first game of the season, there's always that talk of you should embed them in, put them in, don't put them in the deep end. But maybe this would be a good sort of time for Arsenal just to get them in, get them playing from the off.
It's certainly an interesting one. As Tang said, Lynchy is the Arsenal fan tonight. Chrissy don't count. He's half and half. He hasn't made his mind up anyway. He's so much of an Arsenal fan, he's predicted them to lose, get sent off and concede a penalty.
It's standard Arsenal.
Yeah, exactly. Lynchy, what do you think as the resident Arsenal fan? Are you feeling confident for tonight?
In terms of the game, with or without Aubameyang and Lacazette, I'm not entirely confident because I know Brentford would be truly up for it. I mean, you've got new stadium, first ever Premier League game. I think they haven't been in the top flight since like 1947. So it's always going to be a tough game, even with Aubameyang and Lacazette. And like Tinger said, I think it could be a good opportunity for either Balogun or Martinelli if he's fit after the Olympics to play and prove a point. Because Arteta was quite reluctant to bring on Martinelli last season and stick with Aubameyang and Lacazette throughout games when they just wasn't working with them up front at all, and you could tell. But Arteta was really reluctant to take them off and bring on Martinelli, who normally does provide a bit of a spark and a bit of energy, which I think get this type of game against Brentford, where the fans are going to be really up for it. We never deal with those types of games, away games, well. So it could prove like a blessing in disguise, but I'm still not entirely confident with or without Aubameyang and Lacazette.
I've got is I'm always very hesitant to actually say like my fantasy teams before the season started because I know Josh Leafy's a cheat and he will copy. So it's true. Well, it's true though. So I've actually got Smith Rowe in my team. He was actually shockingly quite actually low priced. He's only like 5.5 million in there. I think it's quite shrewd.
Can't wait to copy that.
Well, because you are, Leif, a cheat. Ed Priest has decided to join us this evening. Can you make time, Ed?
Good evening.
You got enough time? Got enough time?
Sorry, boys.
Ed's been having technical issues with his headphones and the fact that he's just a Liverpool fan. I think he was scared to show his face. We're talking about Brentford, Arsenal. What's your prediction on the season opener tonight?
I think it's going to be a tight game. The fact that Aubameyang and Lacazette aren't playing. I know he had a difficult season last year, didn't he? He was quite often. I seem to remember there was a game where Aubameyang was injured and they still went with somebody else other than Lacazette. That's a big red flag if you're Lacazette. Brentford, I think, out of the 3 promoted teams, are the most exciting. I think they're going to come and probably give Arsenal a go tonight, missing some big players. But I presume, as Lynch has just talked about, those front 3, we think they're probably going to be quite young front 3. It's going to be interesting whether they take this opportunity with both hands, particularly Martinelli, if he does start.
It's going to be
1-1.
You think 1-1? I think a lot of people have gone 1-1. I think I would probably lean into a draw myself. What do you think, Leif? You actually spoke quite highly of Brentford previously, so I'm assuming you're going for what? Brentford win 3-0?
No, 2-2. I think Arsenal, the pressure's on them. Obviously, they've got a lot of critics at the moment, but I think they'll turn up. I think it'd be a really entertaining game.
Will it though? Arteta's not really entertaining manager though, is he?
I think it will. Brentford are definitely going to come out. They're going to be up for it. I think it's going to force Arsenal into coming out a bit more as well, especially with a younger front 3. With Balogun starting is a massive surprise to me because I thought he'd gone to RB Leipzig.
That came up earlier today when Chrissy put in the chat. Aubameyang and Lacazette aren't starting, and Leif was flabbergasted. He went, what? I thought he left.
I thought they got him back on loan or something. But it's important for Arsenal this year to push for European positions because the longer they're out of them European competitions, the harder it's going to be for them to get back into that top 4.
I agree.
Just financially and attracting players, and it's already proved difficult for them this year, attracting high quality players. Ben White's a good signing. I don't necessarily think he's one for the future, like Chris is saying. I think he's pretty ready now. He showed that at Brighton. So I think it'd be an interesting game. Yeah, 2-2. Sure.
I think it's a good point about them needing to at least get in even the Europa League or something this season when it comes to Arsenal, because there was those rumours over the summer when they're about like Maddison and stuff like that. Arsenal considering Maddison, and without wanting to put down Arsenal too much, it's a case of realistically, why would he go there? What is there for him to be drawn to go to Arsenal? And Arsenal fans, and Lynch, you might say, what, the big club, there's a lot of history there, maybe the financial side of things. But to be honest with you, you would say, actually, finances, Leicester, pretty well, they've got a lot of finances themselves. They're actually in Europe this season. It's just I don't really get that. But it's going to be an interesting game, nevertheless. We'll move on and talk about Raphael Varane. Now, some Manchester United fans were expecting Varane to be at least in the squad or maybe even involved in the starting 11 against Leeds. I think that was less likely. But he hasn't even officially signed yet for Manchester United, reportedly. Now, he might have actually signed his contract. We don't really know that. But he hasn't officially been announced as a Manchester United player. He certainly hasn't been registered in time to be playing tomorrow or be part of the squad tomorrow for Manchester United versus Leeds, reportedly due to image rights issues. Chrissy, do you think that this is a big loss for United, or what do you think when it comes to the Varane situation?
I mean, it just seems like a typical Manchester United transfer deal. It's almost like the Sancho one went so smoothly, this season. It's kind of like, we might as well drag out this one sort of thing. Like I said, it is a bit of a strange one. I didn't think he was going to be available against Leeds anyway, but you would have liked to thought they would have got, the paperwork done just so, obviously they could get him, match prepared, ready for the game after the Leeds game. But I just find it a bit strange, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a bit of an odd one because when Solskjaer spoke today, he said something like I know the T's have been crossed, but the I's haven't been dotted, or something like that, which is a bit like, okay, it's a bit of an odd way to put it. I mean, Tang, what do you think about this? Is this just peak Manchester United announcing a deal has been done in principle? When was this like now? Like 3 weeks ago? Something like that, right? 3 weeks ago, and it's still, the season's here and it's still not even done.
I think I'm not going to try and be a football agent or anything, but obviously,
why not?
Well, there's a lot of money involved. It's not just a case of, it's not as simple as, here are your wages, here's how long we want you, sign it or don't sign it. It's not that simple, all this negotiation and stuff. But you see, like, Chelsea got Lukaku within a matter of days.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Messi got to PSG pretty much within a matter of days, really. I don't know, and obviously this isn't United's first ever transfer. I'm sure that things have cropped up in the past where they've had to deal. So I don't know what's taken so long. Again, not a football agent, so I don't really know what the ins and outs are. But it's odd that it's taking so long, being so prolonged.
Yeah, it is a bit odd. I mean, I don't know if you've spoken about Rafa Varane to Manchester United before. Is this, or if you care, is this? What are your thoughts on Varane to United?
Oh, he's made a glass in these. Terrible signing. No, it's a very, very shrewd signing. Very jealous. He's won everything there is to win in football. He's going to make United's back four, which I think at times last year was very susceptible. You look at Luke Shaw and Maguire. I think Wan-Bissaka, they were the only two, in my opinion, that were decent last year. I think Wan-Bissaka didn't have his best year, and Lindelof is bang average, unless he's got an absolute rock next to him. Which I think Maguire got him out of jail a lot last year. So with Maguire and Varane at centre half, they're going to be right up there, which concerns me. It concerns me. Yeah, I don't know why it's taking so long. He's done his medical, hasn't he? So
yeah, he's done his medical, quarantined. Reportedly, it's image rights and stuff like that. I mean, the thing from my point of view that's frustrating about it is the whole image rights thing. It kind of feels like they just found that out at the last minute. Like they were doing it, they were doing everything, and then they went, "What image? What?" And then they went,
"It's not that ugly, is it?"
Yeah, and then it's a case of like, well, couldn't have done that when he was sort of sitting around doing nothing for 2 days because he had to quarantine or whatever. So
he's in the garden.
Yeah, or one of them, he was like feeding his baby, watching MUTV. I was like, oh, okay, so if that's how you want to spend your days.
Should have been United stand.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
early bath. Yeah, he could have been watching this. Why not, Raphael? Come on, we need subs, please.
Come on, Rafa, mate. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Lynchy, what do you reckon of Varane to Manchester United? I mean, it's not done yet, and it will happen. Is this? I mean, we spoke about it before, saying it was arguably the signing of the window. What do you think?
Yeah, I think particularly the price they paid for someone who, like Ed said, has won literally everything there is to win. I think that's what makes it even more shrewd. I think he didn't have much long left on his contract. That's probably why he paid a bit less than they would have otherwise had to pay for him. I think that's what makes it such a good signing, the price they had to pay, and a player who's got such experience. When you compare it to, example, Arsenal paying 50 million for Ben White, and then you're paying 43 million for someone who's won Champions League, World Cup, multiple La Ligas, obviously. But going back to the point around improving Man United, I mean, like Ed said, I mean, when I've ever watched Man United and you see Lindelof there, he just looks so shaky and just looks like he can just get barged off the ball so easily and get bullied out of games, especially if you're coming up against this season, the striker like Lukaku, for instance, and that's going to be a big game when Man United play Chelsea, for instance, and you've got a brute like Lukaku up against, if he was to be up against Lindelof, just get bullied out of the game really easily and he'd be susceptible to conceding goals as a result of errors from him. Varane makes them much more solid. So I think it is a really good sign. And I think the price they paid does probably make it up there, if not the sign of the summer for Premier League teams.
I think Lindelof, for a club like United, is a perfect third choice centre-back. But
yeah, I mean, it's never in doubt that he's not good, Lindelof, is it? He's good. He's a good player. He's just not. He's not going to win you the league.
He does get bullied.
Exactly. Yeah.
Against games against like West Brom and stuff, where we drew 1-1, and he did get bullied there. Usually against a bang average big man centre forward, he usually struggles.
Or just it used to be the same way with like Smalling and Jones. It's just concentration sometimes as well. Where just
company every time. Lose Jones, lose Smalling.
Or you can't guarantee in a game that he is going to be just completely focused for 90 minutes. And, you know, as the cliche would say, it only takes, a second to score a goal. And sometimes that's how quickly it can happen. As a United fan, Laith, is this one frustrating? I mean, he wasn't going to be involved against Leeds anyway. But is it just frustrating because it's just a case of it feels like it's going on unnecessarily.
You want to just I think it's more frustrating from a standpoint that you just want to get it done just in case anything goes wrong. Because it's such a sign. It's sign in the window and it hasn't even technically happened yet. So yeah, it's more coming from the perspective you just want to get it over the line because it is such a great addition when he does come in. I'm not too, like you said, he wasn't going to play against Leeds anyway. He probably wasn't going to feature if he'd signed yesterday. So I think it shows up more the complexities of a modern day transfer. It seems to always be us that's on the other end of that, but it's like Tang said, it's not as simple as just here's your wage and sign on. It's all the image rights. There's a lot to it these days. So,
but as he pointed out, I mean, you say that though, but then there are deals like a Lukaku.
Yeah.
There are deals like a Messi. If anyone's going to have image rights issues, it's going to be Lionel Messi, surely.
But
and they got it done pretty easily.
It happens. It does happen. Do you know what I mean? I just like it. You just want to get over the line, just so you know he's a Man United player. See him in the Man United kit, and then you start to get excited. Excited for the season to come.
It's interesting though because there was rumours that he was going to be number 4, replacing, arguably
Jones.
the greatest number 4 ever, which is Phil Jones.
Phil Jones, God bless his soul.
Yeah, how dare you take that number off him? But reportedly, it's not going to be 4 now. It's going to be some other number, which they're not sure yet. So that'll be interesting as well. Going from one centre back to another, Virgil Van Djik has signed a new long-term Liverpool contract. It's going to be interesting to see what Ed says about this one. Obviously, it's a big season for Van Dijk coming back from last year's injury. Chrissy, do you think that it's going to be the same Virgil van Dijk as before, or are we going to have to take a bit of a wait and see approach?
I think the latter, what you just said. I think it's going to be a bit of a wait and see because, I mean, obviously I've never done an ACL injury. I mean, to be fair, I've touched wood. I haven't done many injuries in my footballing career in the old Whitney District, our local league. But yeah, no. Obviously, I know and hear like ACL injuries are quite nasty, and they do take a long time to come back from. Hence why he was pretty much out for literally the whole season last season. And I think he even said to the Dutch national team, I might be putting words in his mouth here, but I think he did say, "Oh, don't pick me," or I want to concentrate on recovery and whatnot. But in terms of the contract, I do think it is a good deal for Liverpool. Just because I think he will be a good mentor figure to both Joe Gomez and Konate for this upcoming season and for the future of Liverpool as well. And obviously he is captain material as well because obviously there is a bit of rumours about Henderson not signing his deal. So obviously if Henderson goes, obviously Van Dijk's the perfect person to put the captain's armband on.
Tang, would you say, considering that Van Dijk is back this season, is that an automatic kind of Liverpool should be challenging because they've got one of, if not their best player back in their squad?
Isn't he? He's a big effort. Does he? He will be like a new signing. He will be, but he doesn't count as news. I think Ed will be happy that he's back. It does it.
This is a really well put.
I take that this is arguably the most. This is arguably the most articulate Tang's been.
Yeah, I think
you break it up a bit.
What's not to like?
We'll circle back to you, Tam. We'll circle back to you because we can't actually hear what you're saying. We'll move on to Ed. Is it that I have seen some people say, I think it might have even been you on Twitter, said that whilst it's great giving out all of these contracts, is this a bit of a smokescreen for Liverpool not really signing anyone this season?
I think it might be. I think it's obviously very important to nail down the spine of your squad for a long period of time, because obviously that in some ways will attract new players as well. If you're a player coming to Liverpool and you're looking at right, Salah's on 4 years, Van Dijk, Trent, it's more appealing than Salah might go next season. You don't know what's going to happen. But like you say, they do this a lot, FSG. They love a smoke screen. They love to big up something that actually, to cover up something else. I think I mentioned in my tweet that centre midfield is an area that personally I'm concerned about. We've got 7 players that can play in those midfield 3. And I'd say only really Curtis Jones and Fabinho aren't injury prone. Everybody else has got a bit of an injury history. So just getting one body through the door is all I ask for. It's all I want. But it is important to to nail down these key players. And yeah, I'm very pleased that Van Dijk signed a new deal.
But will he be... Oh, go on, Chris.
I was going to say, did you hear, Ed, that Curtis Jones has actually picked up an injury and he's missing the start of the season?
Yeah, I did. I think he's concussed. I think he's only missing one game. It's only a concussion, but yeah, fair point.
But I was going to say, Ed, going back to what I mentioned to Chrissy, is there a bit of concern from a Liverpool fan or the Liverpool fans in general that, not that it's the end of Van Dijk, what happened to him last season, because I don't think that will be, but it's going to be a different version of him going forward.
I don't think so. I think you need to give him time because it's a big injury. He's been out for a long time. He needs minutes more than anything. He needs minutes. Needs to get back to where he was because he was such a presence at the back. He got everybody else out of jail. If it was a 2-on-1 with Van Dijk, you'd quite have to back Van Dijk. But he needs minutes. He needs time. I did see during pre-season that Klopp was debating whether to go with Konate and Matip because they were the two who had more minutes under their belt rather than Van Dijk and Gomez. But I'm now seeing it start to flip that maybe Van Dijk and Gomez will start this weekend. I'd be surprised if he started both. I know they are the pair that have played the most times together, but they're both coming back from big injuries. Gomez even more so. I think that was a really bizarre injury that he picked up. Nobody around him, just kind of an innocuous one. But he's been out for a long time. Whereas Van Dijk's is an ACL, so it's a little bit more common these days, which is a shame because it's a pretty nasty injury and there's a lot of physio that goes into it. But it's a bit more common. Surgeons know what they're doing. The physios know what they're doing. So you'd like to think that he'd be able to get back to where he was before.
It's crazy because back in the day, when I say back in the day, like 20, 25 years ago, his career ender. You did your ACL, you were done. So it'll be interesting to see how they come back. But like you said, it's for a modern, not just a football player, just a sportsman or woman. It's become more of a specialist sort of surgeons know how to fix it. They know how to rehab it. They know how to physio it. So you would hope that, I think that the concern with him is just that he was such a physical player. Like he's an athlete. Van Dijk is like, if you were to build a centre back, you would build Virgil van Dijk. That would just be the concern would be that, if we're talking like just being seconds off it, sometimes that's enough, isn't it? But I agree. I think it will just take time, I think, when it comes to him. We'll move on to Lynchy. If you were a manager there or you were a coach, would you say first couple of minutes, either 1, leave a bit in on Van Dijk, or 2, if you've got someone that's, pacey or whatever, run completely at him, test him out?
I think I'd have to go for the latter because I think that's a bit of a dirty move, isn't it? If you say go in and after someone's been
who cares?
An ACL injury. You never know what managers say behind closed doors, but personally, we all fellow professional football players. I'm sure they never want to see other professionals getting injured. So I personally try and test him that way. I mean, I saw, I can't remember who they played at. So I think it might have been Leipzig in a pre-season friendly, but I remember he fell over for one of the goals and he looked a bit lacking match fitness, should I say, in one of the videos. But I'm sure the pre-season would have helped him get up to speed. I mean, like Chris said, it's probably best he missed the Euros and just focus on getting fully back to fitness for the start of the season. Just going back to the point that Ed said about FSG and the smokescreen. I mean, I was just seeing earlier, Liverpool have done quite a good bit of business in terms of tying players down to new deals this summer. I mean, I think Alisson, Van Dijk, Trent, I think was another one. I was quite surprised, actually. So they've still got quite a few players out of contract in like 2 years or less. I think Salah, Mane, Firmino, Robertson all still to tie down to new deals. I'm sure they'll get them tied down. But I mean, as an Arsenal fan, it's actually quite good to see another team actually being able to tie down their best players to new contracts, because we just always normally let them go for free. But I mean, they've got such a. I mean, the way they won the league with that squad. I mean, I think it's quite good they're focusing on the players that they tried and tested, and how well they won the league with those players and that squad, because they didn't really rotate much of that team, and it worked out well for them. I am surprised they've only made one signing this season still. Yeah.
Yeah, I move on to Leif. I mean, Lynchy mentioned there that they've only made one signing. Is that realistically enough for Liverpool? I know a lot of people are phrasing it as, well, you know, they didn't have all of these players last season. Now they're coming back. They're like new signings. You know, people use that cliche. It's almost like a new signing. I hate that phrase though, because it's not. It's not a new signing. I mean, Liverpool should still probably be in contention. But I mean, would you put them as? Would you be surprised, put it this way, if they win the league at the end of the season?
Yeah, I would be. They do lack squad depth still. I think they've improved in the area they struggled with last year, depth wise, with Konate signing. Obviously, they did struggle massively with centre half depth. But I think they needed something up front to make them a bit more clinical than they were last year. They needed to change it up a little bit. I think Firmino and Jota is going to be playing more consistently this season, but Firmino, Salah and Mane were a bit stale, I think, towards the end of the season, especially Mane. So maybe they needed something up there to make them proper title challengers. But Van Dijk signing a new deal is only a good thing. Like Ed probably said, it is slightly a smokescreen, but it's a decent smokescreen because
pretty good one.
Yeah, he is. If he's fit, if he comes back and he's 75% of himself before he got injured, then he's still one of the best centre halves in the world. And he could make a massive difference to Liverpool this year if he stays fit for the whole season. Having Van Dijk fit for 35, 36 games of the season will make a massive difference to where Liverpool finished this season, even though it did finish third last year. I don't know how. Snuck into that.
That's crazy. That's crazy. But also, I suppose, as well, it is a statement of intent of Liverpool basically to try and, you know, quash those rumours of, is he going to be the same player? Is he going to be as good?
Yeah, that's
backing someone, isn't it? By saying he hasn't even played a game yet, and we'll give you a new contract.
It'd be interesting, like you said, that it's different now within the ACL now in the modern day game. He's a physical specimen as well. I don't really have any doubt that he'll come back strong. It's just whether it goes again, if he picks up an injury again. I think
that would be the concern.
Big question mark is if he could just stay fit. If he stays fit, then Liverpool are a different team than what they were last year. That's obvious.
That would be the concern because, in fairness, you're right. You have seen that in the past of players that are out for a year with a cruciate injury. They come back, either the same one goes, or sometimes the other knee just goes right afterwards for whatever reason.
Or it'll be a completely different muscle that's not used to that match intensity. It'll be like their groin or their thigh or something.
Exactly.
I think with Liverpool, with Van Dijk and when Gomez comes back as well, they lost both them players, which is they're crucial to the way Liverpool played. I was critical of Liverpool last year.
And backups, you know.
But I was critical for Liverpool last year when they were playing some games with maybe Phillips and Williams at the back, and they were still playing that intensity high line, which they were getting, which you could only play with people like Van Dijk and Gomez there, who would have a brilliant recovery run.
Yeah, I was surprised by that as well. It was just the sheer refusal to adapt.
Yeah, that's it.
It
was sometimes it was a Leicester game when they won, they were dominating, and suddenly there's a couple of mistakes because their line was ridiculous. So you could play that with Van Dijk and Gomez because Van Dijk is so quick on the recovery run. But when you got Ozan Kabak or whatever his name was and Nat Phillips, you're just not them players. It was amazing to see how he refused to adapt slightly, or maybe just drop the line slightly.
I agree. We'll stick with Liverpool and we'll stick with talking about Jurgen Klopp because Jurgen Klopp has. Well, I was going to say I put a question mark after this. Takes a dig at Manchester United, but he has taken a dig at Manchester United. There's no question about it. So Jurgen Klopp would. Everyone's been having their press conferences today. All of the managers ahead of the start of the season. Obviously, a big discussion point was the transfer window. Obviously, Manchester United have made big signings. City have made big signings. Chelsea have made big signings. Liverpool have made the one signing. But as we spoke about before, there has been a bit of discussion of the lack of activity by Liverpool. So Jurgen Klopp was asked about this, specifically asked about the big spending. And he managed somehow to shoehorn in a dig at Manchester United when explaining it. So he said, and these are quotes, "We all know the situation of Chelsea and City and PSG. What United are doing, I don't know how they did it. We have our own way to do it. We are allowed to spend the money we earn that we always did. This year we spent before we earned money with Konate because after last season, just to be clear, we cannot take any risk in this position at all. I'm never surprised about the financial power of Chelsea, City or United. I've been here long enough to know they always find a solution to these things." So as a United fan, he's basically saying, look, City are rich, Chelsea are rich, PSG are rich, but Man United, where are they getting that money from? And that seems crazy to me, because Man United getting that money because they make a lot of money. I mean, sometimes the Manchester United fans ourselves, we go, imagine we actually had owners that invested money in the club. We can spend over 100 million in a transfer window despite no investment. That's how big a club Manchester United is in terms of global revenue. But Jurgen Klopp just, got to get the elbows in straight away. I mean, what do you make of that, Chrissy? Is it pettiness, saltiness, or does he have a point?
I mean, you can definitely tell he's playing a bit of mind games there. But I'm going to add another sort of adjective to the thing. Is he jealous? Is he jealous of Man United? Because maybe it's a bit of a front
He's
to
jealous.
say, I think it is a bit of a front to say FSG. Well, the Glazers, obviously, it's not the Glazers' money. Obviously, it's money that Man United made as a company to afford, Sancho and Varane. But maybe it is a thing to sort of say to FSG, like, obviously Man U spend this money, why aren't we spending this money? And that. So I do think there's a little bit of jealousy from Klopp, but you can sort of tell from like a bit of last season, the season before, that Klopp does love a bit of mind games.
Yeah, he loves a bit of mind games, but I mean, Tang, does he also love a bit of a moan? Because he's done this quite a few times. I mean, Klopp's. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I get lots of managers like this, and people every time a United fan, if we say, that manager doesn't half moan a lot, they go, well, Sir Alex Ferguson was the biggest moaner around, which is true. That's absolutely true. That's totally justified. But Klopp and Guardiola's kind of the same, of these kind of managers that, like, if they lose, Klopp he's infamous for it raining. We were raining today, so that's why we lost. The grass is way too long out there for us to win a game of football, and it's windy. What do you think, Tang? Is this just a case of Klopp being Klopp, or is it mind games, or is it something else?
I think it's a case of Klopp being Klopp. I think we all know, he's the man. He's like the people's manager. He hugs his players. Everyone loves it, and I think it's a bit hypocritical. He's sort of coming up as like the savior of football, but he's spent a lot of money. He spent money on Alisson, Van Dijk, like Thiago, Keita. He's not sort of adverse to spending the amount of money that United, Chelsea, City do. So you can't really say, oh, they're spending so much money, when he also spends it as well. It's just, it's to and fro in. It's empty threats, really, isn't it? An empty sort of statements that don't actually mean anything when you actually unpick it a bit further.
I don't know. Ed, it'll be interesting to see what you think from Liverpool fans' perspective. I just thought that, from a United fan's perspective, he singled out United there. Like, he goes, we know that City and Chelsea and PSG have got all of this money, but United, I don't know about them. What did you think of it? Or do you love it as a Liverpool fan? Just, throw some shade at Manchester United.
Funny. No, I think the point he's trying to make is that City, PSG, Chelsea have got rich owners who invest their own money, whereas he's potentially trying to say Man United's owners notoriously don't invest their own money.
Take it out.
And we've had this year, 18 months, where clubs haven't earned anywhere near as much revenue as they have done before. So maybe he's saying, yes, Man United are a massive club, the biggest club in the world, richest club in the world. But where have they got this money from? Because the revenues haven't been coming in. Whereas actually, if you take a step back, Man U will have money. Like, it's just because they're not getting revenue doesn't mean they won't have money sat somewhere that they can leverage. So, I think it was just a bit of a pop at Man United, maybe just to deflect away from Liverpool a little bit. I don't know what the question was. Was it about transfers and how Liverpool handled it?
I think so. I think it was just a case of, your rivals are spending big. Are you going to spend big and all that kind of stuff? Maybe you're right. Maybe it's a case of, don't look at me, look over here. Oh, don't look at our spending. Look at their spending. Isn't it terrible?
That's the real question.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. Lynchy, what did you think? From an Arsenal point of view, Arsenal, the thing is, Arsenal are a strange one for me, because there will be a club that you'll hear it every summer, don't you? I tell you what, there's no money to spend at Arsenal. A couple of years ago, they're not going to have a budget. He's not going to have a budget. Suddenly, 72 million, Pepe. You go, where on earth did they find that kind of money? What do you think about comments like that from Klopp?
I think it's just to deflect away from the fact they probably hasn't got that much to talk about in press conferences sometimes. Like you said, he hasn't made no transfer dealings going on really. I haven't even heard Liverpool really being linked with anyone. A lot of managers are probably being asked a lot of questions about players they're potentially linked with. And he's probably just said that in response to a question to try and deflect it away from the fact they haven't really signed anyone. And at the same time, he gets to take a slight dig at Man United in the process. I mean, and the fans all like that, like Ed does. The Liverpool fans will like it, won't they? So everyone's happy.
If it was like, for instance, if it was Solskjaer, and he went, "Oh yeah, I hate Liverpool," he'd be like, "Oh, yeah, we all do," all that kind of stuff. So par for the course, isn't it? Makes headlines, but obviously online love it.
Yeah, one thing I will say, you mentioned it there, Owen. Klopp got very moany last season. I think Liverpool fans really noticed that. Things started going against him, and the journalists were all over it in press conferences. He got very moany very quickly. And like you said, Guardiola's the same.
Well, didn't he blame one of the BT Sports reporters for the kickoff time? It's like it's not the BT Sports reporter's fault.
It was Des Kelly toes as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Des Kelly. I think they drew or they lost the game, and he went, "That's your fault. We lost today." Des Kelly, what?
The one against City as well, where Alisson had cold toes. So
what I said, it's rain, wind.
Your players,
it's rain, wind, grass, earth, wind, and fire.
I quite rate that. I like that he goes a little bit Brent every now and again. Just picks some random thing to blame the loss on.
Yeah. Why did you lose today? Cold toes. What? I mean, what do you think, Clay? I mean, does this, as a United fan, does this rile you up? I can imagine it does.
I don't have much to say about it, to be honest. All I got to say is I can't wait to win the league and the Scousers go back into their box in 30 years. So, next subject.
Okay. We'll move on. Next subject. We'll end with the Athletics predicted table for this season. Now, the Athletic, all of their writers have put together a predicted table of of the Premier League this season. If you're watching on the video, you can see the table. If you're listening to it on audio form, the top four is Manchester City, Chelsea, Manchester United, Liverpool, with Leicester in fifth, Arsenal in sixth, Tottenham in seventh. The relegated teams would be Burnley in 18th, Watford in 19th, and Norwich in bottom position. I guess this is a bit of an open forum, but we'll start with Chrissy. I mean, what stands out to you in that table?
What stands out to me in that table? I mean, literally, like you look at any of the bottom 7 teams, so from Crystal Palace in 14th down to obviously Norwich in 20th, like literally, it's quite a tough season to call who's going to go down out of those teams. I mean, obviously, when we done the relegation predictions the other day, obviously I went with Watford, Newcastle, and Southampton. But literally, any one of those teams, from like I said, Crystal Palace downwards and 14th could go down. And to be honest, like. I know you guys say I'm a part-time Arsenal fan and whatnot, but seeing Arsenal in 6th, to be honest, has baffled me because, like I said, I don't think Arsenal have had a great summer in terms of transfer business and whatnot, and I generally can't see them finishing that high up.
Yeah, I think they'd rip your arm off for 6th. They'd be absolutely thrilled of it.
Definitely
thrilled of it.
Stop the count, as a famous president once.
Stop the count. Tang, what stands out to you in the Athletics predicted table?
I think there's sort of a few ways to look at this. I think everyone's top 4 is pretty much going to be the same, depending on the order, obviously. I don't think you can have many two complaints about that. And then, like as Chris sort of mentions, that bottom 7, any one of those, any 3 of the last 7 could go down. So anyone from like Crystal Palace, Newcastle, Southampton, Brentford, and then obviously Burnley, Watford, Norwich. And then you've got that weird mid sort of section of teams, which include Brighton, West Ham, Everton, Leeds. It depends whether they just have a good season, like a good run, or like a bad run. Their season really just depends on form.
Villa in 8's quite an interesting one, isn't it? Villa in 8's quite an interesting one. They think that's
it depends how well their signings are going to be. I think they've invested quite well, but if you lose your talisman, it's hard, isn't it? You can't replace Jack Grealish, I don't think. And even if you do, you're using up maybe 2 or 3 players to do so, which isn't ideal. Because there's only 11 players on the pitch.
Absolutely. Good point. Good point.
Insight.
That's why we have you on the podcast. Ed, you can see that Everton are in 10th there. As a Liverpool fan, we haven't asked you about this yet. Rafa Benitez to Everton. Does it bother you like it bothered some Liverpool fans?
Oh, it did, but I'm over it. Like, I think in the long run, it will be a good job for him. But deep down, when I saw it flash up on the news, I was like, really? I think from an Everton perspective, he was the best manager that they could get at the time. Lose Carlo Ancelotti, there weren't that many options about.
No.
I think from their perspective, it is a good appointment. From his perspective, were there any other big jobs going at that point?
I don't think so. I mean, the people talk about, Burn Bridges never going to be Liverpool manager again. He never was. He was never going to be Liverpool manager again.
No, he never was. And he's got a lot of ties to the city. He's still got a house over there. I believe his daughter still goes to school in Liverpool or Cheshire. He's got a lot of ties to the city. I think it makes sense for him from a family perspective. And Everton are trying to go places. They're really trying. They've got this big new stadium that they want to build. They're investing heavily. I think their recruitment this summer's been interesting, is the word I've used. I don't think they've set the world alight. They've bought some, interesting players that I wouldn't necessarily have thought that they needed, but there we go. And then James Rodriguez as well went to Everton to play for Carlo Ancelotti. Ancelotti's gone after a year. So he's like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah, he wants to leave, apparently.
Very interesting one.
I don't know. I think with them not signing anyone, it kind of looks like they've put a lot of money into that stadium, and now they're like, oh, crap, we need to sign some players, and they can't. They played United last week in a preseason friendly, and honestly, they were terrible. They were really, really bad. They looked, I was concerned that United might be a bit slow because we missed a preseason game because of COVID and all that kind of stuff. Everton were terrible. They were absolutely shocked, even for like a Benitez side. Like they were awful. And they played worse than like Newcastle did under them. It was shocking. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think you're right when it comes to the whole Everton Benitez thing of people got angry. He was never going to go back to Liverpool. He took the Newcastle job, which was a crappy job for him. He took the Newcastle job just to be in England and to be up north, to be close to his family. He always says, I want a job in England because my family's here. So if they come up to him and say, look, we'll give you a lot of money to manage a good side and you can stay at home and sleep in your own bed every night. But of course, why wouldn't I take that? It'd be silly to turn it down.
Just before we move on, one thing that stood out for me as soon as you put that up there, Burnley in the relegation zone. I'd love to know what their reasoning is, why this season they think Burnley are going to go down, because they're always there or thereabouts and they never really buy anybody. They don't splash the cash, but why now are they going to go down and not Crystal Palace?
I think that's
where he goes.
I think nothing. Okay. Lynchy, Arsenal in sixth. We'll go back to it. Arsenal in sixth, but not only in sixth, above Spurs. Is that realistically? Is that going to happen?
I think these writers, they must be assuming that Harry Kane is nailed on to leave Tottenham, because I can't see if Harry Kane was to stay at Tottenham, I can't see them not finishing above us with him and Son together. I mean, they pretty much carried them through last season, didn't they? But they, like you said, they still managed to finish above us last season. They must be assuming that he's nailed on to leave Tottenham, presumably for Manchester City. But like Chris said, I think top six would be a good result for Arsenal this season. I think top seven is the most we can expect, to be honest, between, the top fours are nailed on, I think, and then between Leicester, Arsenal and Tottenham. The thing that stood out for me, I think, was two things, was Aston Villa in eighth. I think it's changed from last season substantially because of the season they had. The expectations that fans and pundits alike have of them now, even with the loss of Grealish. Losing Grealish always makes me think of when Tottenham sold Gareth Bale, and obviously they used all that 80 million to buy 5 or 6 players, and it just didn't work at all. It'd be interesting to see if that plays out the same way at Aston Villa with Bundia, Bailey. But yeah, it's obviously a big risk, like Ting said. I don't think they can replace Grealish properly. And the other thing is Brighton in 12th. I think quite a lot of pundits quite highly rate Graham Potter, and for them to lose Ben White, they made a few small signs, haven't they, this summer? So they must also think they're going to push on this season substantially. Obviously, there's a risk around Yves Bissouma leaving in the next couple of weeks. I know they wouldn't comment on it a couple of days ago, Graham Potter. But yeah, I think those are the two main things that stood out to me. Aston Villa in 8th and Brighton in 12th.
Yeah, it's an interesting one with Brighton because, like you were saying, I think there's this expectation that, if they can just score goals, then actually they'll be a really quality side. But I don't think they got any risk of going down or anything like that this season. But it's an interesting one. And like you said, with Villa, we're talking about a club that arguably, were it not for the pandemic and that massive break a couple of seasons ago, they were probably going to go down. They were, and it was because of having that break and being able to turn it around a bit, managed to stay in the league, and a bit of goal line technology not working. Leif, finally, what stands out to you in that table?
I don't think it's a massively outrageous table. It's pretty solid in terms of top 4. The ones that stand out are Villa in 8th. I think it's interesting to see if they've sold their best player and they're going to finish 3 positions above what they did last year. I think they finished 11th last year.
No.
That is interesting. But I do like the way the CEO, I've said before, come out and explained the logic behind the signings they're going to make to try and replace Grealish.
Yeah.
Secondly, Brighton surprises me. Losing their best defender. Also, Lamptey's out for the first few games this season. I think they'll be down there this year. I really do. And Burnley, because Burnley always seem to keep their head above water. Like Ed said, it's interesting to see why now they think Burnley have not got enough when they've got teams like Newcastle who are in disarray, who haven't signed anyone, Southampton who have signed 2 of their arguably best players who are going to be in that dogfight down there. So it's surprising to see Burnley 18th. But yeah, other than that, I think the top 4 I wouldn't agree with the way it's run, but the top 4 is pretty solid. So yeah, they're the 3 that surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, it's an interesting table, but look, the Premier League season is upon us. It is going to be starting. At the time of recording, we're about 30. That's Josh Leafy clapping.
Yeah.
We're about 30 minutes away from kickoff at the time of recording. So by the time this goes live, we'll probably be about into the first or second half. So if you are watching tonight, if you're a Brentford or Arsenal fan, be sure to enjoy it. It's going to be a long season. And I would say already a reminder for your fantasy teams, but it's too late. It's too late. The changes that would have already need to be made. So pointless, really. So anyway, be sure to smash a like on the video if you're watching, and be sure to subscribe bottom right hand corner. If you're listening to this, be sure to follow and subscribe on whatever platform you use. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Everyone's just waving the whole time as we're finishing up. Anyway, look, we'll leave you here. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll speak to you again very, very soon. Now you can wave.
Bye.
Bye.